Good morning. Tariffs, inflation, and the real economic impact investors need to understand. And for years, sweeping U.S. tariffs have been widely assumed to trigger sharp inflation spikes, and the logic seems straightforward. Tariffs raise import costs, and businesses pass those costs on, and prices rise across the economy. However, new academic research challenges that assumption. A recent analysis by Geeta Gopinath of Harvard University and Brent Neiman of the University of Chicago finds that U.S. tariffs imposed during 2018 to 2019 and again in 2025 produced far more muted inflationary effects than many economists initially expected. Now, for commercial real estate investors and business owners, the implications are nuanced and important. Why tariffs didn't deliver the inflation shock that many expected. Well, those two researchers found that tariffs do function as taxes on U.S. importers, but their real world impact depends on several offsetting forces rather than simple price pass through. So, here are some of their key findings. So, cost absorption versus pass through. How many of the businesses absorbed tariff costs in their margins rather than fully passing them on to customers? And rapid substitution. Buyers quickly shifted away from tariff goods to alternative suppliers and products made in the U.S. So the currency effects. A stronger U.S. dollar offset much of the import price pressure while dampening export competitiveness. Now, in practice, inflation outcomes were shaped by behavior, not just policy announcements. So let's look at the announced tariffs versus the real tariffs, a critical disconnect. And one of the study's most important conclusions is the gap between headline tariff rates and effective tariffs actually paid. So in there's delays, exemptions, retaliatory measures, renegotiated trade terms, and supply chain rerouting, including substitutions under the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA, which significantly reduced the realized tariff burden. Now, earlier tariffs focused primarily on Chinese imports were narrower and more stable, making them easier to measure. Later tariffs were broader in scope but far more fluid in execution. So, for investors, this underscores a recurring theme. Policy headlines rarely translate directly into economic outcomes. Tariffs are still reshaping the economy, just differently. Muted inflation does not mean tariffs are inconsequential either. But the research does confirm historically high pass through to import prices, a sustained decline in China's share of U.S. imports, and also rising input costs for domestic manufacturers. So these shifts are quietly reshaping supply chains, manufacturing footprints, and regional economic growth, all of which matter deeply for commercial real estate demand. So, what this means for commercial real estate investors, for CRE investors as well as business owners, the takeaway is not complacency, it's vigilance. Tariffs introduce second order effects that can influence industrial and logistics demand, also manufacturing site selection, but as well construction input costs, and as well regional job growth and currency driven capital flows. So markets tied to reshoring, nearshoring, and logistics infrastructure may benefit, while others may face margin pressure from higher domestic input costs. And as U.S. trade policy continues to evolve, investors who monitor the effect of tariffs, the supply chain reconfiguration, and currency trends, not just the headlines, will be better positioned to manage risk and identify opportunity. So here's the bottom line for today. Tariffs have not triggered the inflation shock many feared, but they're quietly reshaping trade patterns, production decisions, and regional economies. Now, for commercial real estate investors, understanding these dynamics is no longer optional. Strategic flexibility, disciplined underwriting, and close attention to second order impacts will separate winners from those reacting too late. And that, my friends, is it for the day. Please visit my website, Houston Real Estate Brokerage, to get a hold of me, and love to talk to you about whatever your scenario is. Take care.